Hello, fourth grade, Mrs. Hand here, and we are back to read The Many Colors of Birds. This is going to be lesson 2.13 in your OLS and our final text from the unit 2, Emoji, Pizza, and Birds, Oh My. So let's go ahead and get into it. I can see that, judging by the photographs, I can infer that this is going to be a nonfiction text. The Many Colors of Birds. Male cardinals are bright red. Sparrows are brown. Macaws and blue jays are, you guessed it, blue. What's the story behind these colors? What causes a bird's feathers to be red or blue or yellow or green? You're about to find out. How we see color. The story begins with color and how we sense it. Light from the sun and from most light bulbs appears white, but light is really made up of many colors. Light looks white only when its many colors are all together. When light from the sun or a light bulb hits an object, some of the light is absorbed by the object. The rest of the light bounces or reflects off the object. The light that reflects off the object reaches our eyes. That is how we can see that the object and the color of the object. So when light hits an object, most colors are absorbed, and those colors are not absorbed are reflected. The reflected colors are the colors that you see. A cardinal looks red because its feathers absorb all the colors of light except red. But what causes a bird's feathers to reflect one color, the color we see, and not others? The answer has to do with pigmentation and feather structure. Pigmentation. Pigments are the chemicals that give living things their color. Pigments do that by absorbing certain colors from light and causing other colors to be reflected. Chlorophyll, a pigment made by plants, reflects green light, which is why plants are green. Your eyes, skin, and hair are the color they are because of pigments. Pigments are also responsible for the color of the feathers of many birds. Blacks and browns. Sparrows produce pigments in their body. Consider their brown feathers. These feathers get their color from a pigment called melanin. Certain cells in the sparrow's skin and feathers produce melanin. Melanin causes a feather to look brown or black. The color reflected depends on how much melanin is produced. Birds with black feathers, like crows and eagles, have a lot of melanin-producing cells. Sparrows and other birds with brown feathers have fewer. There's a picture of a bald eagle. White crows. White objects are seen as white because they reflect all the colors of the light. Black objects are seen as black because they absorb all the colors of light. We know crows are black because their feathers have a lot of melanin, which then absorbs all the colors of the light. Did you know, though, that there is such thing as a white crow? Can you guess what makes that crow white? If you guess white crows don't have any melanin, you're right. White crows lack melanin in their feathers, so all the colors of light are reflected back, making our eyes see a white crow. White crows are not common, but they're not as rare as you'd think. Keep your eyes peeled and you might just be able to spot one. Brown or black feathers are important to white birds. Feathers with melanin don't break down as easily or as quickly as feathers without melanin. As a result, these dark feathers can withstand the wear and tear of flight. Consider the coloration of seagulls. They have mostly white feathers, but the flight feathers on their wings are gray or black. These feathers are stronger than the rest. I guess that makes sense because black crows are very tough birds, and they're covered in all black feathers. Reds, yellows, and oranges. Male cardinals and other colorful birds get their color from pigments in the food they eat. For example, cardinals eat fruits, berries, and seeds. These plant parts contain red pigment. Algae and other plants also have red pigments as well as yellow and orange pigments. If a bird eats these plants, the pigment passes into their body. If a bird eats an insect that eats these plants, the pigment in the insect's body passes into the bird's body. What is the result of these different pigments? All the colors of the rainbow except blue. Blue pigments break down as birds digest food. They don't remain in the bird's body, yet there are so many beautiful blue birds. The coloration of their feathers must have some other source. Read on to find out what makes bluebirds blue. Some birds produce pigments called porphyrins. Porphyrins are very much like the cells that make your blood red. In normal light, they cause a bird's feathers to look pink, brown, green, or red. In ultraviolet light, they look fluorescent red. The red and green feathers of this red-crested turaco contain porphyrins. Feather structure. Like all feathers, the feathers of macaws and blue jays have a structure similar to that of a fine-tooth comb, which has made tiny teeth attached to a handle. In a feather, the handle is called the shaft and the tiny teeth are called barbs. Each barb has hundreds of tiny barbels that make the barb look like an upside-down pine tree. The structures of these barbs and barbels are key to reflecting the blue of a blue jay or a macaw and the iridescence of a hummingbird. Hummingbirds are beautiful. Notice the barbs in these macaw feathers. Each barb has hundreds of tiny barbels that make the barb look a little bit like an upside-down pine tree. The structures are key to reflecting the blue of a blue jay or macaw or the hummingbird. This is what it would look like if you looked at their feathers up close with a microscope. Blues. Feathers are made with a protein called keratin. Actually, keratin is the same protein as in a bird's beak and in your fingernails. If you look at a macaw's feather under a microscope, you would see an arrangement of tiny air holes in the barbs, making them look like sponges or slices of Swiss cheese. You would also see a layer of keratin. When light strikes the feather, the keratin absorbs all the colors of light except blue. Blue light bounces off keratin and scatters. As the scattered light reaches your eyes, you can see the color of the feather is blue. Differences in the shape and size of the air pockets result in a similar shade of blue. And guess what? That same scattering process takes place in the atmosphere above the earth and makes the sky look blue. So when someone asks, why is the sky blue, you can tell them. A complex tale of color. Like most things in nature, the color of a bird's feathers is more complex than it may seem. Blacks and browns are the result of pigments produced in the cells of the bird's body. Reds, yellows, and oranges are the result of pigments in a bird's diet. And blues have nothing to do with pigments, but are the result of the structure of the bird's feathers. The next time you admire a cardinal, spot a sparrow or a blue jay, and you'll understand why they're red, brown, and blue. Iridescence. Consider hummingbirds, turkeys, and male peacocks. The feathers of these birds seem to shimmer and shine in the light. Like a macaw, the feathers of these birds contain keratin, but they do not have air pockets. The keratin acts like a prism. It bends light and separates it into all its colors. Without air pockets or melanin to absorb the light, the result is an amazing rainbow of iridescence that changes as you view the feathers from different angles. Let's picture the beautiful peacock and hummingbird. Then we have an indigo, a sparrow, and an oriole. The oriole gets its bright color from its diet, like oranges.